Hello and welcome back, my loves. I missed you. I can't believe it's March. Thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, hello, my name is Isabel. Welcome to the Up and About podcast. And in our community, we talk about all things mindset, wellness, and self-love for ambitious women. In March, we are celebrating my birthday. I'm turning 27 on March 24th, which is so exciting. And so I want this month and all episodes to inspire you, to motivate you, to excite you. We're going to be talking about self-development, career advancement, entrepreneurship, and overall crazy lessons I've learned in my 20s, and just really unpacking the past couple insane years. I literally went from graduating university to living my dream life in a matter of 3 years. And it was an insane roller coaster of emotions, overcoming my fears, overcoming my limiting beliefs, dealing with imposter syndrome and learning how to work through that, and doing a lot of the work that it took to really just become the woman of my dreams and become the kind of woman that could really bring ideas from my mind to reality and share those experiences with other people. And all I want to do this month is inspire you and help you overcome your limiting beliefs, your fears, because being in your 20s is an insane roller coaster. And I think we can all learn a lot from our fears. We can all learn a lot from our failures, and being able to reframe our failures into something positive and exciting is really the key to do this. 6 years ago now, when I first turned 21, one of my biggest experiences with feeling imposter syndrome and also feeling a huge amount of fear was when I first started my very first business. It was a marketing agency called Truth Media, and if you've been following me since 2018, 2019, maybe even 2017, first of all, you are amazing. You've definitely seen huge periods of growth in my life, but also you know that my first business was my baby and it crashed and burned. I felt so much uncertainty and fear starting my first business, getting my first clients, and that really combined with imposter syndrome because this was my first time being a creative entrepreneur. And I was a baby. I had no experience. I was still in university. I was crazy undercharging and I didn't understand my value of my work. And I dealt with a lot of self-doubt of who would be my customer, who would even trust a 21-year-old to market their business for them. There was lots of feelings of unworthiness, lots of negative self-talk, but the exhilaration and the experience of running my first business, even though it didn't work out in the end, was really the portal to my purpose, becoming a better entrepreneur and creator, and understanding my full potential and what that could look like. In today's episode, we are going to uncover understanding the fear of failure, the imposter syndrome that comes with it, why you may feel this way, especially if you are a type A girly and you need things to be planned out to the T where it's almost a detriment for you, and very practical strategies on overcoming fear of failure and battling that imposter syndrome that you might have in your head. So let's get started with understanding the fear of failure and how it is incredibly linked to imposter syndrome. Fear of failure is extremely prevalent in high achievers, and high achievers typically place a lot of their self-worth on their accomplishments and success and identity. This can translate in your life in so many ways, including avoiding the very thing that you want to do, having a huge reluctance to step out of your comfort zone. For example, maybe you feel like you're underqualified to apply for a job you know that you'd really love. This can also lead to huge amounts of procrastination, whether it's professionally or you're in school or personally. You know that in the back of your mind, you are procrastinating something that you either want to do or need to do because of this fear that either you're not living up to your own expectations, or your fear that the project will not work out the way that you wanted to, or maybe you're always thinking of the worst case scenario and you're catastrophizing all these different possibilities and it becomes hard to think of the best outcome or the best case scenario. Either way, you know that fear of failure is stopping you from taking action. With this fear typically comes a lot of imposter syndrome, negative self-talk. You have this doubt and you have this fear of almost being exposed in a way as a fraud despite your track record of success. There's a lot of feelings of unworthiness, feeling undeserving. You might have feelings of also your track record of success being because of luck and not necessarily because of you and your competence and your skills. The fear of failure can be both incredibly motivating or super paralyzing. It can drive you to work hard, it can drive you towards excellence and to push yourself, challenge yourself. But when it becomes really overwhelming, there's this paralyzing fear of both decision making and action taking, which leads to procrastination, avoidance, and on the really far end, potentially depression. If you are a type A girly, I find that there are 3 characteristics that really impact you, specifically when it comes to imposter syndrome, which is perfectionism, overworking, and having that constant need for validation. And girl, these 3 things do not serve you at all. Perfectionism gets in your way by yourself being your biggest critic. You're striving for flawlessness, for this idea, this subjective idea of perfect. You have these high standards in your mind, but on the outside, you don't take action because of the idea that things aren't good enough for you, which creates this crazy cycle of procrastination, avoidance, things not being done, which leads to more procrastination and avoidance and more things not being done. Overworking is one of those beliefs that when you do have imposter syndrome, that happens at the expense of your health and wellness and personal life. Overworking crosses a lot of boundaries in your life, and it often comes from this belief that you need to work almost harder than everyone else just to prove and settle these feelings of unworthiness and to have that validation that you're being productive, and being productive equals good because it ties into your self-esteem. This perfectly leads into the need for validation and the recognition for external achievements, external success, having that external affirmation and constantly needing and having reliance for those validations and successes rather than recognizing your internal growth really perpetuates that feeling of feeling like an imposter and being on this hamster wheel of continuously moving towards the next project, which again is a cycle of perfectionism and overworking and having that validation over and over again. Let's talk about the type A girl's experience. Remember how we talked about perfectionism? Well, we need to talk about those crazy high expectations, whether it's in your personal life, your relationships, or your professional life. I recently had this conversation with one of my best friends who shared with me this story about how her expectations really got in the way of her happiness. And it was really eye-opening for me. When I look at my best friends, I always see the best in them, and I am so proud of her. She graduated university with a degree that she's extremely passionate about. She makes good money, way over minimum wage in the industry which is related to her degree, which she is extremely interested in and wants to do this forever. She lives in her dream city, and she's recently newly single, which is great because her last relationship wasn't working out, and so it was for the best that they ended up breaking up. That's how I see her situation. That's how I experience her. And I would say objectively, it's a great position to be in. It's exciting, especially being in your mid-20s and being established and independent is a really great step. But it was really interesting because she didn't see it that way for herself, because she had this expectation by at the age that she currently is right now, that she would be engaged or married, that she would be living in a home and not an apartment, that she would have a better job than the one that she currently is at right now. And having those expectations really prevented her from seeing what she actually accomplished and has done, because a lot of things out of her control happened that she couldn't foresee. But again, objectively, she is doing amazing. She's such an amazing place. And it made her realize that having these incredibly super high expectations was impacting the way that she was feeling really present and enjoying the season of her life right now. She learned that she had to realize and balance aiming high, but also making room for circumstances and situations that she doesn't necessarily have control over. Because without those expectations that she didn't have, she would have taken on a completely different point of view of where she's at right now. And letting go of the outcome and taking it day by day has really helped her feel more grounded and more proud of herself. And I really love that story because these expectations have leeway, and we choose when they have leeway. It's kind of like a bowling alley when the rails come up, not necessarily planning for failure, but planning for when things could go wrong or do go wrong, and having that expectation that not everything will be perfect, but allowing that leeway for life to steer you in different directions is always a huge possibility. And when that does happen, you won't feel so blindsided when things happen that was not necessarily in the plan. Legit balancing ambition with mental health is really a huge part of this. It's such a thin line between striving for excellence but also pushing yourself way too hard. We need to accept that perfection is unattainable. It's subjective, it doesn't exist, and ultimately this really impacts your mental health. And you can easily prevent that, especially preventing burnout. Prevention is really the way to go, honestly. The impact of social media and comparison culture, that is huge. You gotta start setting boundaries on your screen time. It's really interesting because one post can be interpreted in different ways depending on somebody's self-esteem. You can see a beautiful woman with her life together and take on the perspective of, wow, that's incredible, this is inspiring. If she can do it, why can't I? And the exact same post could trigger someone else, and their perspective on it could be negative self-talk, it can be comparison, it can easily lead down a spiral of upset thoughts that has nothing to do with the person that originally posted it. That is definitely where the inner work comes in. We need to stop comparing ourselves to other people and start comparing ourselves to the person we were yesterday, because that 1% better every day, that does compound. And me, I've always been an advocate for accountability and consistency. So making sure you show up 1% better than yesterday is really, really the key to building your self-worth and building your self-esteem. And I have a whole episode on how to really, truly love yourself and cultivate that self-love. I will put that in the description for you guys. Additionally, those people on social media, you need to know that social media is all very planned. It's all very curated. It is also a model's job to be aspirational, and so they have the resources, and it is part of their careers to hire makeup artists, to hire trainers, to hire dietitians, private chefs, on top of the editing and the planning and the hairstylists. It takes a whole team, especially if you follow big creators and that's who you look up to or compare yourself to. So make sure you set those mental boundaries and also physical boundaries on your screen time, and stop comparing yourself, girl. I see you. Okay, let's talk strategies for overcoming this fear of failure, because enough is enough. We need to take action now. Let's reframe failure and embrace it as part of our learning journey. Failure is inevitable. It's true. Everybody fails at something, especially if you are putting yourself out there and you're trying something new for the first time. It is so courageous to take a risk on yourself. It is also something very vulnerable and new, and you're not going to be perfect at it, but you need a starting place. That starting point will get you to exactly where you need to be, but you're not going to get there unless you take the risk and you put foot in the game. If you're going to accomplish a goal that's worth it, that scares you, that brings you fulfillment, happiness, excitement, joy, it all has risk. All that risk comes with the fear of failure or imposter syndrome. And by embracing that failure is a part of the process, we reframe failure as a learning curve and something that is inevitable. So we might as well embrace it and take the lessons that we learn from failure to become better and to improve and to grow. Setting realistic goals and celebrating very small victories. The Canadian psychologist Dr. Jordan Peterson talks about this all the time. It starts by cleaning your room. Having a clean space allows you to have also a clean mental space. Start with all of the small things that you can control, with exactly what is in front of you right now. Don't think of the outcome or the end result right away, because that will get too overwhelming. That will get too much in terms of the mental load and the capacity and the investment that you have to put up front. Think of what you can do today, and then think of what you can do tomorrow, and then think of all the small things that are in your control that can get you where you need to be, because that will take a lot of time. Celebrating those small victories is so energizing because you are rewarding for yourself for making that progress. Remember that 1% is all you need. We need to practice self-compassion and mindfulness, because all the decisions you've made up till this point in time, sometimes you might look back and cringe. Sometimes you might look back at your failures and be like, why did I do that? But having the self-compassion allows you to understand that you did the best that you can do with the information that you had at the time. You did your best, you tried, you might know better now, but that's because of your experience with something not going well. And that's exactly what I mean by embracing failure as part of the journey. It impacts what you know now, it impacts your growth, and being more kind to yourself, treating yourself like your best friend, like someone you love. It reduces the harshness of that self-judgment, that negative self-talk, those negative spirals, and it allows yourself to look back and be like, yeah, I've grown a lot since then, and I'm really proud of that. A strong community, a strong support system, your friends, your family, mentors, people that hold you accountable, people that can encourage you, provide you perspective, having a sense of belonging, having a community that makes the journey so worth it. You can find amazing people, amazing mentors through Facebook groups. It's kind of random, but there's literally a Facebook group in your city for anything, whether you want to start a new hobby, a new business, go to a networking event, meet a mentor, meet a coach. There are insane Facebook groups where you can just meet incredible people and feel this sense of a belonging and community. It'll make all the difference for you. Okay, battling imposter syndrome. We need to understand the value of authentic success versus perceived fraud. What I mean by this is that imposter syndrome is a feeling. It's not objectively true. Imposter syndrome lives in your head, and to encounter that, we need to provide objective evidence that you've achieved something hard and difficult and you came out of your comfort zone before. And so you can do that exact same thing again. I challenge you to keep a log or a journal of your accomplishments, things that you're proud of, things that have taught you a lot and have built your character. Talk about how you contributed to this project, the skills that you've learned, the outcome that happened. If it didn't go well, what did you learn as well? Having a log of your accomplishments and having the actual evidence that you've done this before gives you that trust in yourself and the confidence to know that you've done it before. You can do this again, easy. And honestly, that's what success is. It's having the courage to come out of your comfort zone, to take the risk, to grow, and to fulfill that longing and that passion and that purpose you have here in this lifetime. Learning from your mistakes, making the effort, making the time, investing in yourself. That not only empowers you to do it again, but it empowers your community. It empowers the people around you. A lot of people see that you're doing well, that you're thriving, and that energy is so contagious. I know that it is so inspiring to me when my friends tell me that they're working on a new creative project, or they're trying something new completely out of their comfort zone, or they want to do a stand-up performance, or they want to sing, or they want to try acting. All of those things inspire me because it's such a huge part of self-discovery, and I love being surrounded by incredibly passionate and creative people. It's just very contagious energy, and it makes me want to go harder for the things that I love and do. Speaking of, again, the importance of having an amazing community, being surrounded by incredible friends, connecting with others that have the same energy, interests, vibe as you do. It makes you feel validated. It normalizes these feelings that you have. They can inspire you. They can give you actual practical advice of somebody that's been there before. I really encourage you to seek out a mentor, join professional networks, join groups where you can really talk about these different experiences and come together and work through them. Know that self-doubt and negative self-talk is very normal, and so openly discussing it really alleviates that. People out there are looking for you. There are people out there looking for somebody exactly like you, and so you are doing them a disservice by not putting yourself out there as well. You have so much to contribute, so much value and experience and knowledge that you can help and give to other people as well. And over time, that imposter syndrome won't be there anymore, because the more evidence that you log, the more evidence and more self-trust that you create, as well as build those relationships and feel more safe and secure in your community, you'll find that that fear and that imposter syndrome will simultaneously fade and go away, and it will be replaced by excitement and service and purpose. All right, my loves, that is it for today's episode. If you have any more tips about how to overcome fear and also overcoming imposter syndrome, please leave them in the comments below. I also want to start opening the floor up for questions and doing a fun little Q&A where I can answer and give you guys advice. I know a lot of you have commented that listening to these episodes feels like having a bigger sister, and that is exactly what I am here for. I love to hear what all of you guys are struggling with right now, and I'll leave a link for questions to come in anonymously, but otherwise please connect with me on Instagram at upaboutpodcast or at my personal at Isabel at YZOBEL. I hope you have an amazing week, and I will catch you soon.